Today's webinar is going to focus on how one school district transformed their K-12 PE middle and high school PE program into a fitness and activity-based program. Today's webinar is titled Raising the Bar, Transforming PE Through Lifelong Fitness and Activity. Our presenter is David Schmidt, a PE teacher at North Allegheny School District. North Allegheny is a school district 12 miles north of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It consists of 7 elementaries, 3 middle schools, and 2 high schools, with a total enrollment of about 8,300 students. Now, I have the pleasure of introducing our presenter, David Schmidt. Dave is a 2008 PEP grant winner, the 2005 Pennsylvania Physical Education Teacher of the Year, and has been a physical educator and coach in the North Allegheny School District for over 20 years. North Allegheny is in the Pittsburgh area, and Dave has taught physical education at all grade levels K through 12. He currently teaches elementary health and physical education in addition to being the department chair. Dave is currently the vice president-elect for the Pennsylvania State AFERD. With that being said, Dave, I hand it over to you.
All right, thanks, Doug. Welcome everybody to the Gopher webinar. Looking forward to this afternoon. Raising the Bar, Transforming PE Through Lifelong Fitness Activity. Anyways, our school district had the opportunity back in about 2003. We started to look at our curriculum, see how we did things, and decided we wanted to move forward. And just to take you through and see where we were, if we can go ahead to the next slide. We started off with a traditional program, and without asking you this question, I think back to yourself, what's your program look like? Well, ours was very traditional in nature. We had a lot of great teachers who were very professional, but, you know, the slogan in the back of the t-shirt was Gumby there, and it literally had a picture of Gumby with, is it time to go in yet? We were team sports oriented, very traditional in nature, and a lot of teachers were very great teachers, but they were just kind of stuck in a rut in how we presented things, how we did things. So we started to look at, you know, what are our outcomes? What do we want from our kids? And then we started to make some changes, and teachers bought into those changes. We have a great staff of over 30 teachers, and as we went through, made a big change in the way that we presented things. How did we get through this process? Well, that's what the presentation is all about. So if we could move on to the next slide, please. During our travels, like I said again, we did get the PEP grant in 2008, and our school district does an interim review process or a curriculum review process where we analyze the entire curriculum. We combined those two things, and one of the things we did is went out and traveled and met schools and saw some of the model schools out there, talked to people around the country. And this presentation, really, I'm just sharing with you what I learned in that process. One of the big things I learned, that number one overall, is the passionate leaders make the most difference. And you can be that leader. You know, if you're signing up for this webinar, you're trying to do good things, you can make that leader or be that leader. And we spend $1.7 trillion a year on healthcare, but the fact is that affect our healthcare is mainly lifestyle, environment, and genetics. That medical care, that 3%, doesn't affect us. But the way that we teach our kids, we see most of the kids in the country. We have the opportunity to really change their lifestyle and how fit they are and how healthy they are throughout their lives. I've interspersed quotes. I'm not going to read them to you, but on the base of each slide, I've interspersed quotes throughout the presentation. So, Doug, if you can go ahead and advance the slides. Okay. Our number one goal was the number one thing we talked about when we decided to make this change was what was our number one goal? And I took from George Graham, just the mission of the new P is to guide youngsters in the process of becoming physically active over a lifetime. And if you think about it, our subject's really the only one that by its very nature can affect how you feel every day for the rest of your life. Next slide. Next slide, please. Okay. But coming into this, you have to have a viewpoint. This is what you want to do. So we talked about, I've seen other people present the same topic as this. And said, this is what we get to do versus this is what we have to do today. We try to create an attitude among our teachers, among our students. But in doing that, you have to realize there's a lot of baggage that we sometimes deal with. Other people's perspectives, we need to educate those other people. Our parents, our administrators, and other teachers may or may not have had a good experience in their physical education class. And a lot of times they come in thinking that PE is whatever they experienced when they were in school. So we can't just educate our students, although that's our number one avenue. Kids go home and they tell their parents, their administrators, their class is great, and they're learning a lot of good things. That's our best advertisement. But we can also do it through our open houses, the way we advertise to parents through our websites or community programs. And think about who are our biggest problems. And a lot of times, we're our own worst enemy. When we went out to Naperville, we actually had a teacher who was questioning Phil Lawler, who we owe a lot of our great programs to, was one of the biggest innovators in physical education, and questioned him on why his program was good and why he wasn't doing a more traditional program. Well, we've been sticking with traditional programs for a long time now, and we really haven't seen the results we'd like to see. So I think it's about time we change some things, and I know in our district we've gotten phenomenal response from teachers, parents, and most importantly students on the benefits of our program that we've offered to them. Next slide, please. The number one thing we need to do as teachers before we can even help our students to stretch themselves is stretch ourselves, because 90% of what we do occurs in the stretch zone. In traditional physical education, most students are either in their comfort zone or the panic zone. Let's take a basketball unit, for example. Some kids come in, they love basketball. Other ones come in, they hate it. So they're thinking right off the bat, oh, I love this, and they're just doing what they already know. Or, you know, I hope I don't embarrass myself today, and they're spending the entire time trying not to humiliate or embarrass themselves. So they're one or the other. They're not in that stretch zone where most of the learning occurs. And then again, if we expect our kids to stretch ourselves, we must lead by example. We need to teach what the kids need to know, getting them out of their comfort zone in ourselves. You know, sometimes even though I'm not a dancer, at times we'll teach dance in our lessons because it gets kids out of their comfort zone. Other students who may not be in their comfort zones all the time, that might be an area they are comfortable. So it's important to get them out of the comfort zone and learn by doing and get out of that comfort zone, whether it's through adventure ed activities like you see in the picture there, or some of the strength activities we're going to focus on later in the presentation. Next slide, please. Why, and then getting them to realize why physical education is important. Our students and our public need to understand that health-related fitness impacts our whole society, our personal quality of life. You know, the star athlete might be healthy when they're in high school, but if they spend the rest of their years reminiscing, that doesn't help them much if they know how to stay in great shape. Our students need to understand that their or our health impacts our entire society, and that their level of fitness has changed, can change, and will change based upon our own actions. Now's the time to take control of their lives. We need to have our students understand these important items. Next slide, please. To do this, as we started to create this change, I personally came up with my own set of guiding objectives, and they are basically this. All students will be lifelong learners in my class. To facilitate this, I need to address why I teach everything that I teach and present it in such a way to extend participation beyond, that the students can extend their participation beyond the class. All curriculum units that I teach are going to be lifetime in nature and emphasize physical fitness. We don't see the students for nearly enough time, so we need to really prioritize when we do see them and make sure that we're getting the most out of our time with them. And then I'll attempt to expose students to many different activities. Every student may not enjoy every activity, but if each student finds a few activities to participate in for a lifetime, I have accomplished my #1 goal. So, you know, choices are good, but sometimes we need to guide students, you know, be the adults and guide students through activities they're going to have opportunities to participate in throughout their lives, and give them the opportunity to actually try it and experience it to make informed decisions, not just based on often what their friends are going to do that given day. Next slide, please. And then you ask yourself, well, what's wrong with team sports? Well, there's nothing wrong with it. I'm a football coach and a basketball coach. I love team sports personally, but they're not the way that our people meet their fitness needs throughout their lives. Team sports are sometimes things we do after we develop our foundation of fitness and lifetime activities. Lifetime activities, by their very nature, are suited for a lifetime. You can participate in them alone or with friends, with your family. They can be competitive or cooperative in nature. You know, when I was biking Niagara Falls years ago, I ran into a couple of women, 86 years old, who were biking from Rochester, New York, up to Niagara-on-the-Lake. That's a several hundred-mile ride, and they were 86 years old. They were going to see a play up in Toronto. And, you know, we talk about quality of life. Did those two women have a great quality of life and independence at the age of 86? Sure they did, and that's something they can carry with them throughout their entire lives. Whereas with team sports, only 3% of all Americans play a team sport regularly beyond the age of 25. And a lot of them, their #1 goal is to have fun and hopefully not get injured in the process. You know, as they get older, that number becomes barely a fraction of that by the time they reach 45. So we need to really focus on the areas that are really going to be able to participate throughout their lifetime. Next slide, please. And you ask, well, but what can you add individually? Well, number one, you have control of your classes. You know, when you're in there, you are the difference maker. But what things I'm looking for mostly when people come in to see our classes and people come in regularly, number one, their passion. Are they passionate about what they do? When they share with their students and the activities that they teach, are they important in everyday life? Show them how they're important through example, through stories. Take initiative. Don't listen to those who say no. Change what you have control over, you know, and that's your class. 50% of the teachers, like one principal used to tell me, 15% of teachers are leaders, 80% of those teachers will follow those other 15%, 5%, well, you know, they're not the ideal teachers. But you can take that initiative to make a difference in your class, and then if people see your passion and your initiative, they're likely to get on board. Make sure you connect professionally with Shape America, which is the old AFERT has now become Shape America with your local professional organization, Action for Healthy Kids. There's lots of ways to connect. You know, those organizations are out there advocating for us. The picture at the top of the slide are times when I've had the good fortune to go to Washington, D.C. and work with AFERT and NASP to talk to our legislators, our senators, our congressmen, and try to advocate for more quality physical education. Number one, you can also be a role model. Practice what you preach. You don't have to be the best at what you're preaching, but get in there with the kids, do it alongside of them, and sometimes you can stand back and help them. Other times, show them that you believe in what you're talking about. You might not be the most fit person in the world, but you can still show them how important it is to you to work towards your goals at whatever age or stage of life you may be. And then also, you can add partnerships. A lot of people I hear reasons all the time why not. But you know what, in my travels and people I've talked to, I've seen a lot more people that do get it done in spite of some very difficult situations. Look for partnerships with local universities, businesses, other schools. We have other people around that we work with. And then, you know, how do you grade kids? That can make a big difference. Use grading to lend increased credibility in your program. Every student should have the opportunity to earn 100% regardless of their physical ability. I know I've heard all the arguments in the past, but if you write your objectives in such a way that people can, you know, meet those objectives, they can work towards their progress, it adds a lot to what you're doing and gets kids who need it the most to buy into what you're doing. And that's definitely an achievable goal. Grading in practical life skills and meeting course objectives versus trivia facts and sports skills tests. Using heart rate monitor technology, they just came out with the Polar Go Fit program for iPad. That's what we used here, and this is an assessment of one of our students' PACER results so we can see what they're doing. Funding. As we get into funding, you know, say, well, I don't have the money. Well, number one, you don't need money. We can do a lot with a little bit of equipment. If you do have money, the ways to get it, the best ways around them, all the PEP grant is a great avenue. And it's like hitting the lottery for your program. Fundraisers, we run a district-wide 5K, 1 mile and a half mile fun runs, clothing sales. You know, those uniforms that go a long way, they can also help support your program. And I know us personally, a lot of our money comes in through that. Lowe's grants, local high marks grants, whatever's in your area. There's a picture of us building our outdoor fitness course in partnership with our local Lowe's back in August. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay. And then one of the questions I often get is, well, how did you start the change? Well, number one, start with your own classes. And I've said that several times. Don't be afraid to try new things as long as they align with recognized standards and best practices. And then once you do try that, expand to a small core group. Talk to people in your department, in your district who have a similar belief system, and they want to make positive change. And then once you get your small group going, you can influence those changes by example, and other people will be more than willing to join in. Next slide, please. Okay, moving forward, we're going to get into a little more detail of our program and the nuts and bolts of the program, and key piece of how we transform. I had my new building principal this year. I was high school for the past 11 years, and then I just went back to elementary this year. And they had us write a belief statement, a mission statement. And as I was reviewing that, it seems like a great idea to me as you embark on this process is, what do you believe? What is your mission? So I included that here. That I personally believe that all people are happier and better able to meet their life goals when they are healthy and strong. I see physical education as a way of facilitating students to maximize their quality of life by empowering them to have the fitness and skills to do what they want when they want. My personal mission is to work with my students to provide them with successful experiences related to exercise, activity, and a love of the outdoors so that they'll be intrinsically motivated to pursue an active and healthy lifestyle. I will carefully plan my lessons to maximize the amount of time students are engaged in moderate to vigorous physical activity. I will do this to empower children so they can feel a sense of personal accomplishment as they work with others to accomplish their goals and be responsible for their own futures. Next slide, please. Our curriculum overview, we're going to go over everything today, but obviously we're not going to have time for that, so we're going to focus on 2 areas. But overall, we've designed our curriculum so that we have 4 units, a biking unit, a strength training unit, a run unit, and an adventure ed unit. And then we present those units throughout the school year. We have a fall unit, a winter unit, and a spring unit for each of those, and one builds upon the other. Today, I'm going to focus wholly on the strength unit and the fitness evaluation units so you can show how those tie into what we do. Next slide, please. First off, with our fitness assessments, we have used FitnessGram assessments over the past several years, over the past 10 years. We've been charting what we do. Although this year we've actually signed on through a grant from our local Pittsburgh Steelers with the online FitnessGram program. So many of you may be ahead of us in this area with working with FitnessGram online. But the way that we've done it, I feel has been novel. We pre-assess and post-assess all of our classes. We work throughout the year integrating fitness and nutrition concepts into all of our lessons. We also provide opportunities for formative assessment throughout the year, a day here or there where students are coming in and they're self-assessing to chart their progress. We do this in many ways. Next slide, please. Okay, first off, with our initial entry-level fitness assessments, students self-assess or peer assess once they've got the skills down, and we're doing this, introducing it at the elementary level. At the middle school level, they're self-assessing, partner assessing. At the high school level, they're doing the same. Grades for this unit are based on them accurately completing each of the FitnessGram assessments based on objective standards, not on the test reps or time. Next slide, please. One novel thing we've done with the FitnessGram testing is we've added heart rate monitors into the mix. Whereas when we do our pacer assessments, for the pre and post assessments, we add in the heart rate monitors. So that not only are they going towards until they're ready to stop, until they can't continue anymore, it's the same as the normal pacer test, but if they wear a heart rate monitor during that, we also have them record their maximum heart rate at the point when they have to stop the test, and then their heart rate again after a 1-minute rest, so that we're getting more objective data as to what the kids are doing. So they can see a legitimate improvement of where their heart rate was. You can see this example here. The student was at 200 beats per minute at the point where they stopped the test, and how fast their heart rate recovered. And within a minute after the test, they recovered down to about 170 beats per minute. So they can see they had a recovery heart rate of 30 beats. And that shows them a better objective method of, in the spring when they retest, if they get a higher level lapse and a higher or an increase in recovery heart rate, it shows a very objective scientific improvement. Next slide, please. Okay, moving on with our muscular fitness and strength training. This is just a sample of one of the units and how we've done it. If you look at the fall, winter, and spring, if you look up top, there's the date. So we may present this in October, again in December, and again in March. And each lesson being seven lessons, 6 lessons, and 7 lessons, building off of each other. Through the PEP grant, we did have access and do have access to a full fitness center with selectorized equipment, although we've really gone away from that. If you look at the first slide where we had the rack we use for our CrossFit workouts, we try to utilize equipment that students have access to. A lot of times, students may have access to a gym, but a lot of other students may not have had access to a fitness center or may not have the comfort level to go to a fitness center and work out. So we try to set it up so that students are using equipment or bodyweight exercises they can do at home in the privacy of their own home, and it's more accessible to them anywhere. Our first unit, the mobile gym, utilizes that type of equipment. Our second unit is our circuit training, where we're going to focus on the CrossFit and circuit training mentality, and then in the last unit, more of a functional training. Different resources we've gone through, I'll take you through on the next several slides. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, a more detailed breakdown. As you can see, that's strength training 1, our mobile gym. We talk about a GOSCU, the method. The mobile gym unit emphasizes developing the fitness components of muscular endurance and strength in the absence of that traditional gym setting. Students will utilize their body weight and minimal equipment to complete full body workouts. The emphasis of this unit is to educate students on the variety of strength training options available to them. And strength 2 circuit training, which really the whole thing, the way it's evolved, has become more and more integrating CrossFit methodology into what we do. We've sent teachers to get CrossFit certified, and they come back and educate the rest of our department on CrossFit methods. We've also worked with our local CrossFit box. But there are so many great methods out there and ways of doing this. If we go to the next slide and take a look at some of the more detailed ways we do that. The GOSCU method is a great way to introduce fitness and to work with students who might be either highly fit or lower fit. It's basically a series of postural fitness exercises that strengthen and stretch the body, empowering individuals to regain proper body function and alignment. Basically, it's saying that, your body's not going to let you down. It's not the design that's the problem. It's our posture and the way that we use our bodies. Through a series of gentle corrective stretches and exercises, they bring your posture back into balance. I know personally with back issues I've had throughout my life, this has been something that's really helped me. It's really helped students through our middle school program who have had scoliosis and things like that, and helping to straighten them out and work to improve their bodily function. I strongly encourage it. That's one of the methods that you can research more and find out more about that we've used a lot in our program. And you can see down below, they also focus on the patch and the rail yard. The rail yard is one of the GoFor products that you can get to. The patch down there on the slide, our outdoor patch, you can see that's when we just finished constructing it this past August. We have the pull-up stations, jump-over stations. If you live out west, you may have seen those at many of the schools. In my travels, I got to see some of that. Out in California, it's much more common. Out east, it's not as common. Next slide, please. But it's also something that you can build on your own through local grants. At the bottom right there, you see some of our teachers putting our patch together. You can also buy the indoor version of them that you can get out of the GoFor catalog, where they're, the elementary kids find that adventure fitness component and that functional fitness component to be a lot of fun, and they find out where they can tie it in. If you read about parkour and things like that, well, they absolutely can be dangerous. If we teach the kids the proper ways of doing things, they find out it's fun, accessible fitness, hopping back and forth over logs. It's what we do. It's how kids play, and it's even how adults begin to play and make fitness fun. Next slide, please. Okay, the mobile gym we come back to, when we look at some of the equipment there, you see the compact balls that GoFor's going to be rattling off. We do, med ball slams, the med ball squat thrusts, lots of different exercises that we'll do and the ways that we do it. We use suspension trainers, dumbbells, some app-based workouts, medicine balls, and something as simple as the chalkboard example there, where that workout requires no equipment. It's just, we're going to run a circuit, do an exercise, run a circuit 2 more times, do an exercise, run it 6 times, do an exercise. So if you don't have access to the equipment, there's a lot of ways that you can improve your program based off of what you have right now in front of you and with you. Next slide, please. But our number one method over the years has become the CrossFit method. CrossFit.com has a lot of free resources for you to get familiar with the program. There's a lot of critical things out there also about CrossFit, about any type of new exercise program that comes out. If you're watching the news, they'll say, oh, Taebo is this great thing, and then the next thing you hear about people getting injured in Taebo. I think that's where we come in, whether it's CrossFit, Taebo, P90X, or any of the latest fitness crazes, is to help students understand that it's the same things coming around again. The important thing is that we do them safely and we differentiate how we do them. We want to get a lot out of a little bit. Time, equipment, costs. Focus on scaling our workouts for the kids. If you go into CrossFit, you're going to see these workouts, and they do look overly intense for our kids, and most of them are. But we don't do those as prescribed, as you might see on the CrossFit site. We scale workouts to make them appropriate for our individual grade levels and student readiness levels. Even within your class, it's very easy to scale a workout so they can see what they're doing. This picture here is an example of at our local CrossFit box, raw training, realize the athlete within. We took our kids on a field trip down there, and one of their trainers there is putting our kids through a basic CrossFit workout, and they're just alternating push-ups and squats back and forth every minute or so. But their motto is getting comfortable being uncomfortable, and that's getting into that stretch zone again. Other CrossFit methods, as we put in, this is one of our middle schools, Carson Middle School, put in a new fitness center this year. As you can see, they have the suspension trainers hanging from the wall. The rig that you'll see advertised in the Gopher catalog is a great way. For the same price as one machine, you can buy a set of the rubber bands and the machine to use in what you're doing. It's cost effective. It allows you to scale the difficulty and pace of workouts to your students' needs. We have over on the left a boy and a girl who are using training weights. That bar is 15 pounds. Those plates are only 10 pounds. They're learning to do the exercises properly. Over here on the pull-ups, you see the male student is standing on a rubber band in order to help him with his pull-ups. The girl on the other side, she has her knee in the band, helping to differentiate the ability. So if they can't do straight pull-ups, they can do them in this sense. Same thing with the dips there. You see the band around the young lady's knees. It's easy to outfit an entire class with this type of equipment and make it appropriate for them. Different workouts that we'll do. This is one of our favorites, the CrossFit Tabata workout. If we could go forward again, please. We have rounds of 20 seconds work, 10 seconds rest, pull-ups, push-ups, sit-ups, and squats. This is a great workout to get ready for your FitnessGram assessments. And as you can see, the teacher on the left there, every 20 seconds, he has a chance to redirect students and give them constructive criticism on what they're doing, reteach the techniques. So they're doing, we can differentiate this workout by having 4 rounds, and then they rotate to a new station. Or it goes up to the traditional Tabata, which is 8 rounds before rotating to a new station. So they're doing 8 20-second rounds of push-ups, then 8 20-second rounds of squats. It's a great workout for the kids and a great way to differentiate what we do. I use it with my football team, with my physical education classes, even from elementary through high school, as long as we can scale up to their ability levels and we can change up what exercises we're doing as part of that workout. Next slide, please. Challenges. We try to make it interesting by providing challenges to our kids. In our schools, we have our regular PE class and our advanced PE class. One way we challenge our advanced classes is by using the Marine Corps PFT challenge. Students actually sign up and take the PFT challenges, the 3-mile run test, the 2-minute sit-up, the pull-up test, and then we rank the kids, and they can see where they rank and what Marine classification they can be. We have personal best days. We'll come in and perform all the FitnessGram tests in one class period. The whole class will do a pacer test, followed by, then they'll partner assess each other on push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, and so on. And I know the pull-ups aren't part of FitnessGram, but we'd like to include those anyways, and chart how many reps they get total, and then they can try to improve that number. So their pacer plus their push-ups plus their sit-ups plus their pull-ups is their total score, and each time, in each personal best day, they're trying to improve those scores. Most improved awards, leaderboards, 6-rep strength tests, strongest pound-for-pound tests, Mr. and Miss Fitness competitions, lots of ways that we try to make it fun and interesting for our students. Next slide, please. And when it comes down to it, results are what matters. And are we making a difference? I picked out a couple of samples here from our previous year's fitness assessments, and you see that we are. Our students from one year to the next and from throughout the year, our 6th grade students, our top thing is our pacer results. From 6th grade through 12th grade, we have a little statistical anomaly there in the 8th grade, but you can see students are coming in and they are improving from one year to the next, especially from their pre to their post assessment. Unfortunately, our high school kids are falling off a little bit, as they are across the country. But this will allow us to show the kids where they are, and as we use FitnessGram in the future, to longitudinally show them where they are. And if you look at our strength tests with the way that we've been doing the CrossFit things, look at the strength grades our students are getting from year to year. And the interesting point is when we compare from the end of one school year to the next, we see that our classes are the determining factor. They're getting stronger from the fall to the spring across the board in every single class. That doesn't always happen, unfortunately, from the spring test to the next fall test. But you can see there with the data that our students are improving across the board. Next slide, please. I want to thank you for listening today, and in our planning for this webinar, we're going to leave lots of time for questions at the end. There was a lot of information there. I apologize. I think I might have skipped over a few things with our mix-ups in the beginning with the presentation. So if I went a little fast, missed a few things, I apologize. But if you have any questions, my email address is there on the last slide. And right now, we're going to go back to Doug and open it up for questions that have come in during the presentation.
Thanks, Dave. Awesome information as always. I know David's presented at our PEP summits that we have here we have 2 a year, and always has a packed house when he presents, and the information that he brings along with it is fantastic. So awesome job, Dave. I'm gonna hold you on the line. I got a couple of questions for you, and the first one being is from one of our participants. They ask, what are some examples of practical life skills that you assess?
Well, the example there would be, if I look at our curriculum, I think the most practical ones, the other units that I didn't cover today, are running units, our biking unit, our lifetime activities units. So the things that we assess in there, in our running unit, I think right off the bat, we teach the kids, we're using the heart rate monitor technology to slow them down and teach them about the aerobic fitness zones, you know, a threshold run versus a basic cardio run. So they're learning that they don't have to run at a threshold all the time, which is what a lot of kids believe. So that's one aspect, is the heart rate zones. Two, teaching them how to run with good technique. If you look at when kids are exercising, or adults are exercising more so, they're injuring themselves a lot through overuse injuries. So teaching basic safe technique in running and strength training, are biking. You know, unfortunately, we teach biking, and unfortunately, a lot of the kids, we're teaching them how to ride a bike for the first time at a middle school, high school level, because they haven't had those opportunities in the past. And then through the adventure ed also, I think the social skills, passive aggressive behavior, assertive behavior versus passive behavior, things like that go a long way.
David, I have a participant asking about how they can get a copy of your challenge chart. Can they just email you directly to do that?
That's one way. On the challenge chart, I don't know, is this presentation be posted online through Gopher?
Yes, it is. It is being recorded, and everybody will get will be emailed out this presentation.
Yeah, and you could also email me, and I'll post the presentation on my website also through northallegheny.org is our district website. If you navigate to Health and Phys Ed, you can go to staff there and see my website. The presentations are also online. So however I can get that out to you, I'll be happy to do that.
Okay. Another question is, what are some of the apps you use as a teacher to instruct students, and what apps do you have the students use to track or assess themselves in class?
Well, during class, the students really aren't using apps during class themselves. They can go on outside. We have the students do outside work on Strava or Map My Ride or Map My Fitness. They can go out and do exercises on their own and then share those with their teachers is one option that we use. As far as the apps in class go, well, the Polar GoFit is one I've been using extensively, and with the heart rate monitor technology and the Bluetooth heart rate monitor technology, it's a great app. The other app, which I think I use on a daily basis, is Seconds Pro, which is a timer app. And as far as classroom management goes, it's a fantastic tool. Seconds Pro, again, is the name of the app, that you can program your workouts ahead of time. So when their kids are supposed to be working, the music plays. When they're supposed to stop, the app changes colors. You can program or plug your iPad into a projector. They can see when to change. They can go by sound when to change. And it frees you up to be out teaching your classes. So those are some of the two of the biggest ones I use with the classes. Also, there's a great Pocket WOD app for CrossFit that you can use. The Coach's Eye app I use extensively for evaluating my kids. We'll film them and let them go back and see themselves performing activities, and so they can self-analyze what they're doing, their workouts. We've done that for both analyzing the CrossFit movements, their running technique, so that I can record them on the field, and then they go back and see it at the beginning of the next class. I'll play it in a projector for them.
Okay. Another question from a participant is, What is your transformation to the elementary level, and what are you promoting and how for grades K1, 2 versus 3, 4, 5?
Our elementary level, our main focus is locomotor movements, manipulative skills. It's more of a traditional program, although we tie in a lot more fitness-based. Even at our K1, 2, which is primarily what I am teaching this year, we're coming in, we have our instant activity right off the bat, and then we'll tie in the CrossFit brand of movements where we'll put together a small AMRAP, which is as many rounds as possible, as many reps as possible. And we'll start the kids off and say, okay, today we're doing these exercise. And like this week in class, we did flying burpees, and the kids loved it. We were, reindeer taking off and taking flight, and then landing, going into a burpee, and they would see how many of those they could get. Then they'd rotate their next exercise, which could be a curl up or a push up or whatever exercise you want to put in there. You can use your own imagination. I like to use some of the animal flow workouts, and then they'll see how many reps they can get done in a period of time. And I'm usually the form police. If I see them doing something incorrectly, they go back and have to redo it so that they're doing good technique. And after that AMRAP, then we get into a cool down section before we get into our instructional activity period. But that's the way we really incorporate the fitness at every level, is to go from an instant activity as a warm up into an AMRAP or Tabata style workout as their daily workout, and then a cool down, and then you still have approximately 20 minutes of class left for our instructional period.
Okay. Good stuff. Another question, how do you adjust the sets and reps for different sports, age groups, and genders?
I think that really comes from knowing your students. It's hard to say, well, this age or this gender or this sport should be doing this. That's where we have to be counted on as professionals to get to know our students. I have to, one class might be different than another class that I teach the same day that are the same age level grade based on their readiness. The big thing is to start kids off slow, because they're going to want to do more than they're ready for. They're going to think this is easy, or not easy physically, but oh, I know how to do this, and they like to tell you, I know, don't tell me, show me. And the hardest part really is holding them back and slowing them down to have good technique, because if you try to do too much too soon, then we get into the injuries. One of my colleagues, who's I think probably listening today, was showing me the other day where he was taking the Tabata squats and showing the bottom squats, and he was going from a full extension all the way to the full squat at the bottom, and just really slowing it down and having the kids hold the positions at each extreme so that they could learn it. From there, you just have to see what the kids are ready for, but you can very easily, like one of the workouts, the Murph. We have the full Murph maybe for a high school class, which is a very, very challenging workout, and then down to the elementary level where I might do a mini Murph as my workout for the day, where they only run 5 laps of the gym and then do this many push-ups, this many pull-ups, and I use a pull-up trainer for those pull-ups. But it depends on what your kids are ready for. It's hard for me to say based on not knowing your students.
Sure. One question here is, how often do you see your kids, your students, per week or per day?
At our high school, from 6th through 12th grade, we see the kids every other day for the entire year for about a 40 to 45-minute class period. We do have an elective at the 9th and 10th grade level where you see the kids every day for the full year. And then at the elementary level, we see our kids once a week for the full year, and then once every 3 weeks for the full year. It's called an integrated arts class, where that's for an hour, where our regular classes are for 45 minutes.
Okay. I know you touched about this a little bit in the presentation, David, but I know how did being receiving the PEP grant just kind of transform your program?
I think it just provided a kickstart. When we wrote our first PEP grant, we did apply for it several times before we finally received the grant. It was a long-range plan. Whether we got the grant or not, coming together and writing that grant program said, well, if we can't do it, if we don't get the grant, we can at least, that's a roadmap for where we want to go and where we want to be down the road. It just really allowed us to jumpstart our program. My main advice to anybody who's applying for a PEP grant, looking into the PEP grant, is have a clear vision of what you want. Once you get the grants, you're going to get a lot of pressure from a lot of salespeople to do this or do that. I would have my end goals in mind of what I want to do and use it to really, for professional development, I think is the number one thing, to get your staff on board as far as up to speed and what you want to do. I know I have several regrets looking back on my time, a lot of great things, but several regrets. But it was really a springboard to other grants. After the PEP grant, we had teachers, not myself, but other teachers in our department apply and receive over $90,000 in grants from local sources because they kind of caught on to that.
Yeah. Yeah, and as you mentioned earlier, in one of your slides, you had mentioned that all the local grants you get, the Highmark and the Lowe's and things like that, and that's just used to sustain as you move on.
Right, just saying, and we fund a lot of our own things through our own fundraisers. Our middle schools run their own fundraisers. So we are kind of we do have a budget through our district. We also are kind of a self-supportive program where we try to do a lot.
Again, I think I'd like to also remind everybody to keep an eye out for their certificate of participation. And in the next couple of weeks, we'll be announcing the details of the January webinar. Happy holidays to everybody. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you join us again.